Now let's actually move into the actual math of this, because this is, if you can get customers predictably, you kind of need to know how much that's going to be costing. And it depends on your budget. It depends on all of this. Say you're an electrician and your average job is $400 hypothetically. Whatever you spend in advertising, obviously there's costs associated with that. So you don't want to be spending $100 or $200 to get one customer. Ideally, you want to be less than that, so you're actually making a profit. If you're selling carports, you can afford to spend more. If, say, your average carport is $2,000 or $3,000 or something like that, you could spend $300 or $400 in advertising to get one customer, and you should still be able to make some margin on that. If you're selling homes that are 100,000 plus, you could probably afford to spend 5,000 or more to get one customer. So depending on what you're selling, the volume you need to sell it in, the amount of capital you have access to, all of these different factors is going to determine, how much can you actually spend on ads. That's something you need to work out. Like, what's the amount you can spend on ads to actually get one customer, and what's going to be the profitable number for you? Like, is it going to be profitable to spend $100 to get one new customer, or is your ceiling, the max you can spend, $75? Now, what is it for your business? So let's do some actual really simple math about this. And a great question to actually ask, so I've written this down because this is really important. How much does one order or one client actually cost now, and how fast is it recouped? So I'll type that out. So if you have so how much does a new now? So that's the first part of the question. How much does a new order or client cost now? Let's say some examples. Say you're doing carports, and say your average price is, say, $3,000 for an order, and that's how much say someone pays. And what you don't get the money up front. Maybe you get 50% up front. So you get, say, $1,500 on average up front. And then to actually purchase the materials for all of this, it's costing you $1,500 just to purchase all the materials, and with staff as well. Maybe it's even more. Say, for example, they're giving you $1,500 up front. The average sale is, say, $3,000. It's $1,500 in materials and staff. So your profit is approximately $1,500 when, and this is, of course, so hopefully this makes sense. So if, say, your average sale is, say, $3,000, you take a 50% up front, and your business is obviously different, whatever that is for you, but this is the amount. We're working out how much it costs us now. So if it's $1,500 right now that it costs for materials and stuff, and it's $1,500 up front that a customer is paying, then it's basically there's no money actually being added to your bank account until it's fully paid. And this doesn't even take into account advertising costs. So we really should include that. Say the advertising cost is $300. That means if we get $1,500 up front, and it costs $1,500 to install it and for the materials, and then it costs $300 in ads, we'll make $1,200 when the client pays in full. But because they've only paid 50% up front, we're having to fork out $300 because they're paying $1,500. It's costing you $1,500 in, say, materials and stuff to install it, and $300 in ads, that means you're forking out $300 for a new order. And if it normally takes you, say, a week to get fully paid, say you're really, really fast, and it's probably longer than that. Say it's 30 days. Say 30 days until you're fully paid. If you're doing, say, even one job a day, 5 days a week, say you're doing 20 jobs a month, that means you'd be up for 20 times $300, which is $6,000. You'd have to have at least $6,000 spare just to be able to afford getting new customers each month. If you were, say, doing those numbers, for example. If your numbers could be completely different, and then you'd have to work all of this out. So basically, if we're doing 20 orders a month, that is 20 times $300, $6,000 that you'd have to actually be forking out, because it's going to take 30 days for someone to pay the rest of the money, and there's going to be this delay. Except once the 20 orders are done, then there should be about $24,000 in profits before tax. So these are the things you have to work out. If you had a much lower deposit percentage, say you only had a 10% deposit on this, hypothetically, that means if someone's paying you $300 up front, and it's costing you $300 in ads and $1,500 in materials, and that every order is costing you $1,500 per order. Write that correctly. So if say you're only doing a 10% deposit, and the rest, say after it's delivered, and you're doing these terms because it helps you get customers, because you're able to offer a 10% deposit where the competitor is saying, no, we want the full payment up front. This is a competitive advantage by offering a lower deposit, except then every order that's coming in, it's really costing you $1,500 until they pay you. And if you're doing 20 orders a month at $1,500, well, that's a lot more. That's $30,000. So this means that if you wanted to grow and you wanted to double your business to, say, 40 orders a month or 80 orders a month, you'd have to have quite a large amount of actual cash reserves that you can do this, or a line of credit or something. You have to work out what's this gonna work out to be. And once you know these numbers, then you can work out how much you can actually spend in advertising. Like, you could probably spend, say in this scenario, if you were to spend $600 in advertising, which would be another $300, you'd be forking out more every month, and you'd be making less, but you'd still be making a profit. In this example, even with tax, you'd probably still be making a reasonable profit. It just require more cash. You just need $36,000 to fulfill each month of orders. And this is a very, very simplistic scenario, though. Especially if you have to order things in bulk, this is a more complicated, calculation. If you have to order, say you're doing garage doors, and you need to order 20 doors from the manufacturer as a minimum order, this is going to complicate matters more. And you just have to think about, how much does a new order or client cost right now? And then when do I get paid? How much money do I need in reserve? And then if I want to double, say in this example, with all these numbers, you wanted to double to 40 orders per month. That means with this particular example, you'd be $72,000. This would actually be $1,800. I'll say the advertising is a bit more expensive. You're having to fork out $1,800 just to finance the order. 30 days later, it gets fully paid though, so that's good. And you're making basically $900 before tax after it's paid, except you'd need to have at least $72,000 available that month so you can fulfill everything. Probably more, because there's other expenses, there's other things that come up. The cash isn't that consistent. Some people might pay late. All of these things need to be taken into account, like a worst case scenario. if it's taking, say you're on 30 days, it might be better to look at, say, 60 days. Then you're looking at a really bad scenario. Like if your invoice terms are normally 30 days, do a scenario, work out something like this, either yourself or with an accountant or with someone else who can help you do this. Work it out for 30 days, for 60 days. Work these numbers out, because this is important, especially when you start scaling. You need to know these numbers, that if people, say, aren't paying and you're trying to grow your business, you need to make sure that there's enough cash available to finance this. And of course, this depends completely on your business, your metrics, everything. But that's basically the simplest way to do this. So how much are you bringing in now? How much is it costing you to fulfill everything before you're paid? And then how much are you making when you're paid? You're making a profit, hopefully. And then, how much it needs to be in reserves on, say, a worst case scenario where there's a couple of bad months or people aren't paying. Like what's a worst case scenario? And then base your business off the worst case. If you do that, it's going to be a much less bumpy ride, and you're going to get to your destination with ultimately less stress. Trying to grow too fast can work. It definitely can work. There's many companies that do grow fast and they do it very, very well, except there's always the balance. Do you want to grow so fast and potentially it all blows up, or do you want to do it a little bit slower and you still get to your destination? It takes a little bit longer, but it's a much more sure thing. And I think that's a lot more sensible for most people, especially if you have a family or you have young children or anything. You want something that you're not putting everything at risk. So you want to do something that is, of course, going to increase your business, but not be some crazy risk. So that's why looking at a worst case scenario, I'll write this down here. Look at a worst case. Make sure you look at that and see how it'll all work. And of course, see what your financing would be. You can, of course, take into account interest on this. If you have a line of credit or a loan, then maybe there'll be interest on this. Say you have a loan and it's 10% per year, then you can work all these things out. But you get the idea. It's like, how much money are you getting today? How much is it costing you to fulfill all of that? And then, what's the delay? What's the lag time? How much money do you need to basically weather the storm? Think of it like that. How much money do you need to weather the storm and grow? How much money do you need to weather the storm if things go bad, and how much money do you need to continue to be able to grow as well? Once you know that, it's going to make things a lot simpler. It's going to make everything clearer for you. So we've had a look at some new customers, and we're doing some math. Now we have an idea of, okay, what is actually a reasonable budget? And depending on your business, you have to do this and work out, okay, how much should I be spending per month in getting new customers, in advertising or other means to get new customers? How much is that? What is the process? How does that work? And does it work on a bad scenario? On a worst case scenario, does it still work? So let's have a